Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to the Den of the Drake. Other dragons hoard gold, while I hoard internet cringe. While the world of RPGs is constantly broadening, much of the community remains an enigma. I personally like to believe...
All right, big man. Plane's all gassed up and my bags are packed. Ready to leave when you are. A work-sponsored vacation. I gotta admit, that's pretty out of character for your style of management.
This is no vacation, Larry. I'm launching my invasion of Scotland.
Okay, that was more along the lines of what I was expecting.
Glad you're with me, Larry. Those commie bastards have had it too good for too long.
What? There is not a single communist country in all of Europe anymore.
Okay, Larry, let me ask you this. Are there any countries in Europe named America?
No.
Well, there you go, commie bastards.
Drake, that's not...
Think about it. Scotland is just the beginning. Soon all of those poor Europeans will live prosperous lives under the flag of Lord Drake. All thanks to established titles. You see, little buddy, way back in the days of old, it was Scottish custom to refer to landowners as lairds, or lords and ladies in English. Established titles is a fun path to world domination. Whoops, that's not in the script. A fun way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland while helping global reforestation efforts.
That's the last time you'll slap your willy around.
I still don't see how this translates into an invasion of Europe.
I'm getting there, Larry. I need to be a landowner to be considered a lord, right? Well...
Oh, you did not.
There she is, right where my unique plot number said it would be.
You're talking about that little thing right there. That's it?
Yup. With established titles, you get at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland. That's 1 square foot down and only 838,619,999,999 to go. Now, I'm thinking about names for my new kingdom. I'm leaning towards Drakistan, but I'm still workshopping it. As long as no one else buys up any of my land, my reign is all but guaranteed. Suck on this, wizardy dick!
Wizard? What the hell are you doing in Scotland?
What does it look like I'm doing? I'm launching my invasion of Europe. I got 1 square foot down and only 838,619,000,000. Oh, no. You're on future Drakistani territory, you pointy-hatted freak. Now piss off! No way. Thanks to established titles, my new country of Wizeria will be a force for good. For every plot of land purchased, established titles plants a tree through their partnership with One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future. Wizeria will support global reforestation efforts, unlike that little crack house that you call a lordship over there. Well, if you won't step off, Drakistan has no choice but to declare war. Larry, go set fire to his plot.
No, Drake, I don't think I will.
Nuh-uh, no way. There is no way you could afford one of these with the salary I pay you.
I called my ex-wife, and she purchased a couple's plot for me as a last-minute gift. I got the title of Lord on my credit card, dating profile, Costco membership, and most importantly, my plane ticket, because this is stupid and I want to go home.
There is no freaking way. You'll have to kill me.
The kingdom of Larrytopia stands in your way, Mr. Conqueror, and I ain't gonna sell either of you my plot, so you might as well just pack it up and go home.
Snakes! I am surrounded by snakes! Is there anyone else who became a lord that I should know about?
Sup.
Oh, you
For an all-American Who's your favorite pastime American?
So, are we going to tell the Americans that their plots don't actually give them any kind of authority over Scotland?
Let it be, Hamish. I'm sure they'll figure it out on their own. You all suck. It's time you get the respect you deserve, lords and ladies. Established Titles is having a massive sale right now. Click the link in the description and use the promo code DOTD to get an extra 10% off your plot of land.
The first 200 people purchasing a title pack using my link will get their plot of land placed right next to mine. And depending on how many of you also want to become lords and/or ladies, we can actually build our little Den of the Drake Kingdom. Long live the Kingdom of Drakistan! Link is in the description. Well, Scotland, I think you and I both know that deporting me will only delay the inevitable. The sun shall never set on the Drakistan Empire. But before we go back to scheming my way to world domination, let's read a horror story. The story I have for you today stars a group of coworkers who just wanted to clock in, clock out, and collect a paycheck. But that hits a roadblock when their manager introduces work-sanctioned D&D. And to make matters worse, one of the party members isn't exactly the most stable individual. Yes, dear listener, it is a tale of whimsy, romance, and plenty of HR violations. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and dive right into the horrifying world of r/RPG horror stories. Enjoy. This week's story comes from Reddit user rstorok and is titled Workplace Sanctioned D&D. What could go wrong? Before we begin, some context is needed. I've always had the same friend group, and that continues to this day, plus or minus a few friends here and there. Through a long plan concocted by a few of us, close to 20 people, including friends, friends of friends, and significant others, all got hired at the same tech support company. The company was signing new clients every day, and things were rapidly expanding. By the time of the story, half the people in the building were people I knew before I started working there. One of us was made into manager. The whole team was moved to a new, larger building complete with a 14-person conference room. The room had a massive table, chairs, a projector, and a mini fridge, and absolutely no purpose. We were the support folks. No one visited us. Meetings with clients were held in the admin building down the street. So our manager asked permission to run a D&D game on the weekends, when the completely unused conference room would be definitely extra not used. The admins gave their blessing, so long as we were not loud enough to distract those who were actually working, and only employees of the company were allowed in the game, or at least in the conference room. Security reasons and all of that. They seemed to think that the game would serve as a free team-building exercise, and would occasionally send pizza or whatever. What could go wrong? There were a total of 8 people in this campaign, but only 3 matter for this story, and honestly, I am not really one of them. Our cast: the manager, our DM, the orchestrator of our grand adventure. Stacy, longtime member of the friend group. Steve, one of the newest members of the friend group and of the company. He lets us know that he has tons of TTRPG experience, but has never done a game of D&D and doesn't know the setting lore. Everyone is excited, and the manager starts to write out the story. He tells us that he is going to run the most ambitious game of his life. It will be an evil campaign. Most of us were veterans, and we all had talked about how fun and how hard it was to run an evil campaign. If everyone is evil, then in-party fighting is not only common, but sometimes encouraged, and this can lead to some pretty sore feelings mixed with untimely death. But it was also an opportunity to try out classes, subclasses, / domains that you normally don't get to play, and the manager promised us exactly that. A party of the worst that the world had to offer. Not motivated by a collective feeling of righteousness and goodwill, oh no, but instead loosely held together with the promise of wealth, women, men, power, and edge. We were told that anything goes as long as it's evil. Do your worst. Bring your biggest monster. We're all adults here, and it's time we played like adults, right? We all agreed to this campaign, and we all knew it was going to get evil, and probably not safe for work at work. Yeah, we didn't really think this through. The campaign was set in Menzo Berenzan, the most well-known drow city in D&D lore, and the DM cautioned us that since this is going to be a hardcore evil game, racism, in-game not out-of-game, was going to be prevalent.
The Drow are not the most inclusive bunch, and he was going to roleplay the world as it is described in the books. All of us took the hint and made Drow characters. Everyone except Steve. He was a human. We explained the situation to him and he decided to make a human fighter. That was a gladiatorial slave. It was actually kind of clever and fit in pretty well. Session 0 wraps up nicely, and we all can't sleep out of excitement for Session 1. We start in a marketplace. Suddenly, all exits are blocked by guards, who won't let anyone out. There is the sound of marching as nothing short of a small army of mercenaries, slaves, and kobolds with sharp sticks are funneled into the market by the guards. Everyone is pressed in on all sides, and then the army starts to murder everyone without discrimination. Each of our party is somewhere all doing various market things. We each start defending ourselves when a voice calls out, "With me!" It is a tall, beautiful, in a totally cool old guy regal way, you guys. Strong, handsome, muscular, suave. So the DMPC calls out the whole market. "Those that can fight, hold them off. Those that can heal, tend to the injured. Leave the dead. The rest to me." And then he starts making an XXL teleportation circle, while also projecting a divine shield around the poor defenseless market-goers. Throughout the entire campaign, we never got a straight answer on the class/classes that the DMPC had. We have to survive 5 rounds holding back an army while he makes the circle so we can escape. Our resident sorcerer assists in making the circle, cutting it down to only 3 rounds, and we escape, beaten to a bloody pulp, but with no one actually dead. The whole party teleports. Several sharp-stick kobolds come along for the ride. They are quickly slaughtered by more city guards, but with cool, mysterious badges, at our destination. One kobold surrenders and instantly becomes the party mascot. The DMPC offers us a job. Free room and board plus travel expenses on top of a salary. And the standard, "What you loot is yours" clause at the end. Everyone signs up and the session wraps. The manager promises us the DMPC will sit at his desk and hand out quests rather than come along. The manager promises that the DMPC will sit at his desk and hand out quests rather than come along and do our jobs for us. Think of him as a manager. Hopes are high. Everyone is mostly happy, and this looks like it's gonna be tons of fun. What followed next was several months of confusion. We learned that the DMPC wanted to depose Lolth, Queen of Spiders and Goddess of the Drow, and install Veyron in her place as primary god of Drow. The DMPC takes some time to explain the political and socio-economic ramifications of this undertaking, for Steve's benefit, as he is the only person not up to speed with the lore. We all chime in respectfully, filling in other details about the world and Drow culture. However, the DM painstakingly corrects us on a few details. Anyone who has not seen the official artwork of Veyron knows that he is not only Lolth's son, but also a rather edgy boy, whose primary motivation is sorting out all his mommy issues by the way of knives and other sharp, stabby things. He is a chaotic evil deity who is unpredictable and doesn't play well with others. However, the DM talked about Veyron as if he was a noble, lawful paragon of justice against evil mothers everywhere. This is where our campaign gets weird. We learn that our DMPC is a lawful good paladin of Veyron, and wants nothing less than rainbows and kittens in every home of Menzo Baranzan. And while we are under his employ, we're expected to do the same. No extra evil, no extracurricular murder, just do the job and be Boy Scouts while doing it. Leave no trace in all of that. We were told verbatim, "You can be evil, but while you work for me, you will do no evil." This is not quite the evil campaign that was advertised. So the party assassin cannot assassinate people, or at least he can't take contracts to kill people, which was his entire backstory. He's allowed to kill people, but only if they are evil, and they attack him first, and we are supposed to kill them for the mission we're on. The cleric can't worship Lolth anymore, and has to convert to worshipping Veyron. Alistray is an acceptable alternative. I'm not railroading you, I promise. The warlock needs to try to get a patron that isn't a devil. Maybe an archfey or a celestial? The DMPC knows a few angels, it's fine, we can figure it out. The party finds itself in an awkward position. We are in a D&D game, at work, where the DM is basically forcing rewrites of all of our characters under the guise of, I'm not changing your backstory, just your current story. It's character growth. Also, the DM is literally our boss, controls our schedules, and has the power to fire us. We keep playing. For months, the game continues. But every time anyone gets the chance to be a little evil in a city where everyone is evil, the DMPC shows up and politely chastises them before handing out snacks and running off again. The enthusiasm is gone, but most of us stick with it. 2 people drop when their characters die, leaving us at 6. This is where Stacy and Steve come in. Their characters have been enjoying a somewhat one-sided romance. Steve's character is stunned by Stacy's character's beauty and independence. Stacy's character thinks that Steve's character is adorable, in the same way that a puppy would be. But a romance of sorts takes place and starts to grow. The 2 become stronger friends outside of the game. After some time developing, Steve has his character propose to Stacy's. He gets down on one knee and seems to be role-playing, addressing Stacy by her character's name and talking about their shared adventures, and how he likes being at her side. Even if that means in this world being at your feet. He then reaches into his pocket and pulls out a box with a ring and proposes to Stacy then and there in front of all of us. No one speaks. No one moves. We just sit there and watch. After realizing what was actually happening, Stacy closes the ring box and offers a bit of a compromise. Their characters would get married in the game. However, if Steve wanted to marry her, he had to date her first, and truly get to know her and not just her character. The 2 start dating, and the rest of us breathe a collective sigh of relief. The manager gives each character a magic item as a wedding present. Stacy receives a cool animated snake whip, and Steve receives a thundering halberd. F***ing what? Bruh, this story went from 0 to 100 real quick. Okay, I was about to prepare a cute, snarky little aside about how hard evil campaigns are, and how that racism is bad and DMPCs suck, yada yada yada. And then this motherfucker literally pulls out a ring. Like, bruh, imagine your boss forces you to play D&D with a bunch of your coworkers that you can barely tolerate in a secluded conference room that is so rarely used that the dust probably covers the table that you play on. And then this rando that you've been casually talking to just straight up decides, "Yup, this is it," and f***ing proposes marriage right in front of your boss and coworkers. Oh my god, I would implode in on myself and cease to exist. I would be so f***ing mortified. Oh god, I'm realizing that not only did he fall in love with her D&D character, but this is supposed to be an evil campaign as well. Like, bruh, just skip to the part where you ask her to step on you and save everyone some time. This goes without saying, but a person's D&D character is not a good representation of them as a person. Look, I get it. My gnome impression is enough to make any man or woman fall in love with me instantly. But I want someone to love me, not JoJo Glitterbill. But here's what's got me all worked up. This stunt worked. Like, Stacy didn't immediately just get up and leave, but she actually starts dating this prime specimen of desperation. Stacy, girl, have some self-respect. And y'all want to know the craziest part? This isn't even the end of the story. The literal proposal of marriage is not what caused this game to tank. Sweet God in heaven, this is going to be a special kind of train wreck. The game itself deteriorates as time moves on. The quests become repetitive. Go to the place, sneak inside, steal the MacGuffin, kill the bad guy of the week, and try to sneak out. Each time the mission would go the same way. We would sneak in, get to the MacGuffin vault, realize the only way to open it was a key held by the bad guy of the week. Then we would get caught trying to sneak into the bad guy's room. usually because of Steve's halberd thundering. Guards would materialize out of the woodwork, and we would kill everything in sight, except for the obligatory, "I just work here, man," maid/cook/whatever that always happened to be standing in fireball range with the rest of the baddies. We would be battered and bruised as we would walk into the boss room, and the boss would TPK us. Except they wouldn't. The boss would never deal a killing blow, and instead they would just down us. Once the party was down, the DMPC would show up, one-shot the boss, then heal everyone. He would toss us the key to the vault while tossing the MacGuffin up and down in his free hand. What would follow would be what I think was supposed to be an encouraging pep talk, and suggestions for how to improve ourselves. It always came off as belittling, and often broke the fourth wall to the point that the manager was just telling us how to play our classes. We head back into the vault and grab our loot, and every time the pedestal that was supposed to contain the MacGuffin would have some treats and a sticky note, letting us know that the DMPC still loved us and had high hopes for us next time. Basically, the manager was annoyed that we couldn't beat his encounter, so he kept reworking it and just running us through it again and again. The settings and the names and the MacGuffin would change, but it was the same session for around a month. We plead with Steve to not use the halberd when we were trying to sneak. We bring up all the times when there is plenty of opportunities to go thundering about when we're not trying to be stealthy. We also beg the manager for more encounters that are not stealth dependent, so Steve can get some much needed halberd time in. But no, same session, different week. Stacy and Steve move in together, start sharing a ride, and start using the game as an excuse to hang out rather than participate. Stacy still kept tabs on what was going on, and would chime in when her name was called, but Steve basically stopped paying attention to anything but combat. Finally, we move forward. The MacGuffin this time is a bag of magic dust with properties unlike anything you have ever seen. Whatever. Sneak, 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 stab, stab, stab. The cleric casts silence on Steve's halberd, so he can hack and slash with impunity, and we manage to get to the boss room without triggering the alarm. The boss goes down super easy, since he was unprepared and didn't have his gear on him. And then we head off to the vault, which was a magic waterfall this time, that you need a magic stone to open? Whatever. Water turns off, we grab the magic bag and the loot and head home. The DMPC is fascinated by the magic dust and says that he will look into it. We do some side shopping and RP, and the next session we get on to our next quest. We are going to the surface to mine a bunch of magic dust from a cave that the DMPC found. We have a crew of 20 dwarves going with us to mine the rocks. We are going with them just to keep them safe. So outside the cave is a forest that is infested with trolls. The sorcerer uses illusion magic to hide the entrance to the cave, but the manager just stops him because it would break the encounter. What we have is a session of basically fighting wave after wave of trolls, but quietly so we don't alert the rest of the trolls. The party cuts down a few trees to make a barricade since the illusion idea won't work. Steve uses his thundering halberd to help chop down some trees. Everyone, DM included, reminds him that we need to be stealthy, and the cleric runs over with a silence spell, having learned from many previous sessions that Steve does not like being told not to use his halberd. Steve is adamant that he uses the halberd before the cleric gets there, and even tried to roll initiative to see who would try to go first, him or the cleric. The DM gives up, the halberd thunders, and we are up to our eyes in troll. We are all dead by the second round. Steve insists that he did nothing wrong, and that all the planning and politics are boring and he just wanted to skip the fight. He and the DM get into an argument over his fun versus everyone else's fun. They start shouting at each other, and soon we remember that we are at work. There is a full support center outside with people on phones who can hear this argument. One of our coworkers barges in to shush all of us since clients can now hear us. The manager turns to Steve and fires him on the spot for causing an argument. Steve argues even louder that he isn't on the clock and that they can't fire him. Everyone but the manager, Stacy, and Steve flee the crime scene and head home. The aftermath. The admin building got several complaints from customers about hearing swearing and arguing in the background of their calls. Steve is the first of us to work next morning. He is swiftly fired not because of the manager's decision, but because of his actions afterward. The manager himself hears about this and puts in his 2 weeks before going to work the next day. He is told to go ahead and clean out his desk. According to HR, he resigned. But he didn't show up a day of his last 2 weeks. The conference room door was locked by the custodial staff the next morning, and to my knowledge, it remains locked to this day. Steve and Stacy drove home the night of the argument and fought the whole way home, with Steve insisting that it was her duty to back him up in the argument. She gets mad and leaves him, moving onto a friend's couch for a week or two while she finds a new place to live. Years later, she actually marries this friend, and they have been happily married ever since. She still refuses to join our games of D&D. The manager actually continued the campaign with the 4 of us remaining, and it nosedived straight into the ground. It might be worth a story in its own right, but that's all for now. TLDR. A manager tries to run D&D at work. He gets into an argument with a player, and the 2 are promptly fired. End of story. Well, I can't say I didn't see this ending in disaster. I absolutely did not predict some incel-tier desperation with the random marriage proposal, but the group tanking as hard as She-Hulk's audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes was nothing if not predictable. I mean, all of the red flags were there. It's generally a bad idea to play RPGs with anyone who holds any actual power over you IRL, especially if it's in the context of a workplace. I want to say if you were to transplant every D&D game in the world into an office setting, at least half of all of them would end with an HR meeting. The game's just too unpredictable and potentially emotionally charged to make it a safe bet for a more professional environment. It would take a special understanding between coworkers and, in this case, a manager to keep the thing from tanking, which is obviously not something that this group had going for them. But if I have anything to say about this story, it's that it wins the award for biggest twist I've seen in an RPG horror story. There's no way in hell I could have predicted the Steve and Stacy subplot, and I'm partially relieved and disappointed that they split in the end. Not because they would make a good couple, but because I have a sick level of curiosity about what a divorce lawyer would say when written on the divorce filing is the sentence, "She is nothing like the dark elf I fell in love with." Now before we go, let's take a look at this week's Gallery of the Drake. This week's fan art comes from viewer Catherine Cox and depicts a relic of a simpler time. Yes, a time where humor was unapologetically cringe and everyone was cool with it. A time before the internet was ruined by a flood of degenerates from Tumblr when the website banned all NSFW content. No, there was only Drakedor, the Burninator. Now prepare yourselves for the worst thing I have ever uploaded to the internet.
Drakedor! Drakedor!
Drakedor was a man. He was a YouTube man. He was just a YouTube. But he was still Drakedor! Could someone just f***ing kill me, please? Thank you again, Catherine, for submitting your art. If you'd like to see your fan art featured in Gallery of the Drake, be sure to send it to the email in my About section. Fan art is my favorite part of doing YouTube, and it means the world to me that I can inspire artists like you to create artwork like this. With the story over and artwork displayed, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you feel like supporting the channel further, my Patreon and merchandise links are in the description. I would like to thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you next time. in the den of the drink.